that has fought the good fight for many years. Mark Lamb has had over 2,000 apprehensions per year. I believe that's just in Pima County, is that correct? Pinal County. Per each year. And he's not even on the border. The Biden administration, your fake news channels, wants you to believe our borders are secure. They're all but that. Our borders are a nightmare down in the Tucson sector, where I report at constantly, getting the news out to America. Let you guys see what the humanitarian aids, the NGOs are doing down there on the border, where we got thousands of illegals pouring through weekly. You guys are on Facebook, follow my Facebook reports under Johnathon, Townsend, Alexander, and you'll see my weekly reports on the border. Tonight, it's an honor to call Mark Lamb. Your service to this country and to the state of Arizona has been remarkable. I'd like to tell you right now, this man will do a remarkable job in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
We need somebody that has already been on the ground fighting the fight for all of us. Anybody can talk a good talk. I'm not saying Carrie wouldn't try to do her job, but I'd rather have a man that's been fighting the fight in office, that knows what needs to be done, and how to address Washington, D.C., and get these borders secured and shut down.
Amen.
Mark, it's an honor having you.
Thank you. Anytime they read your bio, it feels like an obituary at first, like, hey, I'm still here, I'm still alive. Thank you guys so much for coming. I love coming down to this area. You guys have such a beautiful park down here in the corner of this state, and I think the border has a unique balance here in places like here in Nogales, where there's so much going on with the farms and the amount of people that come to work, the trade that comes into the state. It really does remind me of just how vast our state is and how important every single region of our state is and what we do. And Yuma doesn't just do it for the state, it does it for the entire country. And so I'm grateful to be here tonight. As he mentioned, I'm the sheriff, and Jonathan, thank you for doing that. And Carl, where's Carl at? Carl and Sally, thank you guys for doing this. And a special thanks to Mr. Britton for opening up his place here for us. Thank you, sir, for opening up our place. So as you mentioned, I'm the sheriff of Pinal County. It's between Phoenix and Tucson. And as I was driving out here and getting into all these farms, it reminded me of a story I heard about a sheriff one time. It was during political season, and they had this bus full of politicians. It was going from little town to little town. They were doing their stump speeches. And the bus leaves one of the towns, and it's traveling along the back farm roads, hopefully to get to the next town a little quicker. Well, the bus never shows up. The bus was on one of these old farm roads and crashed, and the old farmer goes out and sees this bus, all the people laying there, goes back, gets his tractor, comes back, puts everybody in the tractor, takes them back to the farm, puts them in the pit, covers the pit up. A couple days later, the sheriff shows up and he says, hey, Bill, did you see a bus out here? He says, yeah, I saw a bus. He said, well, what happened? He said, well, it crashed back out on that farm road of mine. He said, well, what happened to all the bodies in the bus? He said, well, I took them and put them in the pit. And he said, well, were they all dead? He said, some of them were saying they're alive, but they're politicians. You can't trust them. That's my way of telling you I'm not a politician, okay? I'm a patriot who loves God, family, freedom, and the Constitution. That's why I do what I do. I have been blessed to find it. I found this profession a little bit later in life. I was talking to these folks up here. They were asking me how I ended up in this. They said, you're kind of not like other cops. You got a sense of humor. Trust me, cops got a sense of humor. It's just a little morbid. They got a sense of humor, though. And part of it is because I didn't get into this profession early on. I never grew up wanting to do it. Never once thought about being a cop as a kid. Nobody in my family's a cop. Nobody in my wife's family's a cop. I was a businessman, 33 years old, and I had a neighbor come to me and say, "Hey, you want to do a ride along?" And I thought, "Sure, I'll go do it. Sounds cool." So we went out on this graveyard shift out on the Indian reservation, the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. So we go out there, graveyard shift. We get a call for service where a dad finds a 20-year-old with his 14-year-old daughter. So they get into a fight. The guy runs out the back. We show up. We get out of the car. They let me out. Now I look back and I think they're crazy. But I'm out there armed with a flashlight and courage, you know. Like I know what I'm doing walking around. And you know how the res is. You'll have a house and behind it maybe nothing. And then an old abandoned travel trailer. So I go and I'm looking. I see this old abandoned travel trailer. I look through the window. And amongst all the trash and debris, I see what I think is a quarter size of skin. And so I'm like, hey, I think this guy's in here. So they go in there, they move all the clothes in the trash. Sure enough, that guy's there. They grab him, they rough him up, tase him, put him in cuffs. I went home that morning and woke my wife up and said, "Honey, I'm going to be a cop." 6 months later, I was in the academy. But I found what I loved. And not only that, I found something that I felt like I could give back to the country that I loved. To the people, do something special for the people who had sacrificed so much to give us the country and the freedoms that we have.
Yes.
You know, the Founding Fathers understood it. When they wrote the Constitution, the first charge of the Constitution is not actually found in the Articles, nor is it found in the Bill of Rights. It's actually found in the preamble to the Constitution. When they said, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice." It's the very first thing they established. The Founding Fathers knew how important this would be. And I felt that importance every day that I went to work and did this job. Then I started seeing the country as we were losing it. And they were undermining the rule of law. And so instead of being the guy that sat there and did nothing about it, I told the guys I was working with, "I'm going to run for office. I'm going to run for sheriff." They said, "You're crazy." I knew nothing about it. But what I knew is that I wanted to be a part of the solution. And so I ran for sheriff, and I was fortunate enough to win. And I've been the sheriff there for 8 years, and it is truly, other than marrying my wife, going on 30 years now, Janelle right there, this pretty little lady. And yes, her vision is perfectly fine. She can see normal. You might be wondering why she's with me, but she can see perfectly fine. Probably because I carry a gun. I don't know. But I'm blessed to have her. I have 5 kids. That's the highlight of my life. Other than that, being a police officer, being a sheriff, has truly been a blessing because I've been able to fight for and defend the things that I love, and I've been able to defend the rights of my people. People will say to me sometimes, "Sheriff, you can't talk like that. You're the government." I said, No. I'm not the government. I'm your county sheriff. My job is to protect you from the bad guys and to protect you from government overreach. That's my job. So now you might be saying, "Well, why are you running for the U.S. Senate?" You guys ever heard the story of Jonah and the whale? It's actually Jonah and the big fish. That's the story of the Bible. But Jonah, the Lord comes to Jonah and he says to Jonah, "Hey, I want you to go to Nineveh and talk to these people." And Jonah was very familiar with Nineveh, and he's like, I don't think so. So Jonah doesn't go. Instead, he goes down to the water, gets on a boat. And if you know the story, storm comes in. He's over sleeping in the corner. Everybody in the boat's trying to, manage the storm. And they said, "Hey, what are you doing? You need to get up and help us. Why are you sleeping?" Eventually, they end up casting lots and figuring out that it's Jonah's fault that the storm is going. So Jonah says, "Throw me overboard." So they do. They finally take him, throw him overboard. Big fish comes in, swallows him. He's in the belly of that fish for 3 days, stuck in there with all the seaweed and everything, praying to the Lord that he'll get spit out. 3 days later, the fish vomits him out on the beach. Guess where he had to go? Nineveh. I'm not smart. I'm not the smartest in the world, but I'm smart enough to know I may as well just go straight to Nineveh. When this came across, this was not something my wife and I had on our radar. It was not something we wanted to do. It wasn't on our list of things to do. But if you read through the Declaration of Independence, there's a part in there that I should memorize. But it basically, summing it up, it says, if you can do something about it, you should. And that's basically the mantra of the Founding Fathers. If you can do something about it, you should. And here I was now as a sheriff, I have a great job, empty nesters. I had every reason not to do this. But I had all the ability to do it. And when we looked at the issues, the main issues we're dealing with are the border, the economy, crime, national security, no matter what. I just talked to somebody did some polling recently. Amongst all the other stuff we're still dealing with, those are still issues that are trending as four of the top issues.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about the border and some of those each things, but I'm going to tell you right now, you will not find a candidate in this race that is more experienced in dealing with the border issues than what I bring. Now, you guys have a great sheriff here, Cochise County, but they're not in this race. Frankly, I'll be the senator. When I get elected, I'll have the most knowledge of any of the senators in the Senate. These guys have heard about the border. Some of them stepped foot on it a couple times, but they don't fight it and deal with it on a daily basis like Johnathon was talking about. Dealing with the people that are left for dead in the deserts by the cartels. Dealing with the women that are being raped. 8 to 10 women that are coming across are being raped right now. And our policies that we have are aiding and abetting that. Our tax dollars are going to NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to aid and abet in the trafficking of humans into this country. Not just at our border. As far away as the Darien Gap, as far away as globally, they have charities that have their branches in those areas helping people with our tax dollars to come to this country illegally or to make false asylum claims to get into our country. And then when we're coming here, we have veterans, homeless veterans on the street, while we're taking people that broke the law and we're putting them in hotels in our country. How backwards is our country right now?
Yes.
And what we've done is we have put politics in front of people. Not just the American people, but also the people that are being abused and taken advantage of by the cartels and other people with political motivations. I will tell you, Homeland Security and border security are the same thing. The greatest threat to us right now as Americans is happening at the southern border. If you don't believe me, let me illustrate to you how. You guys know, I don't need to tell you, you guys know in Yuma, and we in Arizona know. We've known for decades what immigration and border security looks like. For decades, it's been people coming across the border, they work for 6 months, they go back home, or they come in here and some stay for a while. But we knew what it was. Now it's completely different. Over the last 3 years, they're coming from 170 different countries. Many of them coming from places like Africa, from Syria, from the Middle East, from Haiti, from Russia, from Ukraine, from China. 37,000 Chinese nationals came into our country last year. This year, we're already at about 30,000. We're going to double that number this year. Ask yourself why. Now, I'm going to tell you, the FBI is finally admitting, because we've been telling them for years now, this is a big problem. And they're now admitting they have put the threat level at its highest level for terrorist activity. But I'm going to tell you, we're already in the middle of terrorist activity. We've been conditioned as Americans to see terrorism as bombs going off, or as a plane crashing into a building, or somebody walking into a crowded building or a church and shooting a gun off. We view terrorism as that. That's what the media and the politicians sell us. What if I told you terrorism looks very different now? What is the leading cause of death in America between the ages of 18 and 45? Fentanyl poisoning. China is bringing the fentanyl, put it in the hands of the cartels. They are bringing it across the border, and they are killing 100,000 Americans every year. No army has ever had success killing American civilians that these guys are now, and they haven't fired a single round, and they haven't set off a single bomb. And they are still killing Americans. We know exactly where it's coming from, and our government is failing you. And they are not protecting the families. And I will tell you, there are American families across this country that have terror in their hearts every night, thinking about whether their children are going to come home alive. This is the type of terror that we don't want here in America, and we can stop it. And it's going to take strong men and women who understand the border to do it. The economy, anybody feel good about the economy? I was going to say, because if you raise your hand, I was going to tell you shouldn't. It's not going well. You know what credit card debt went from in a year? $765 billion to $1.1 trillion in 1 year. That is an increase of 40% in 1 year. How can you tell me the economy is doing good when Americans have increased credit card debt by 40% in 1 year? Auto loan delinquencies, all-time high. Interest rates, 20-year high. So we need people that understand there won't be another candidate in this race that has run a large agency, a government budget of over $60 million that I have expected to balance every year and stay within it every year. Imagine that, a government official who actually tries to stay within his budget. So we've got some work to do, and we need people that know how to do it, that understand it. I'm not going to promise you I can go there and fix it tonight. Frankly, I'm running for the Senate. Congress controls the purse strings, but we still need people that understand that every dollar that they're sending to these countries all over the world are American tax dollars. We have real problems right here in this country, and I watched some guy from Virginia stand up and say that the Ukrainian border is our border. No, it's not. Our border is our border, and our border is unsecure. It is a national security threat, and we owe it to the people of this country to do something about it, put the American people first. And frankly, we're broke. We don't have the money to go send all over the world solving other people's problems. We've got our own problems here. And then we talk about crime. Crime's on the rise. We're seeing a crime increase. You guys, fortunately, in Arizona, we got a lot of communities. There's still good communities, family communities. That's not the same throughout the big cities and throughout the rest of this country. We have some real problems, and it's because we're undermining the rule of law. Just what we saw, which is what got me into this profession in the first place, and we're still seeing it. And those are the things that we need seasoned veterans to do. If you were to become a cop, I would make you go through a background, then you go to the academy, then you got to go through a training, and we might let you be on your own after about a year. So this isn't a profession you can just pick up overnight and say, I got it. This takes time, and we don't have time. We need to send people back that are qualified to do the job that we're asking them to do. And frankly, this is a very important job. It is one of the highest jobs in this state and in this country, and we need to know that not only do we have qualified people, but we really need to know that they are proven, unwavering, solid conservatives who understand the role of government in our lives, and that is minimal. And that's what we need, and that's why I'm in this race, is because I've been doing it, I understand it, that's why I'm here. We need people like that. So, I am going to tell a quick story, then I know you guys got Daniel here that wants to talk, and we need good men in the Congress, and I think we have an opportunity to take this congressional district back.
Yes, sir.
So, because I always like getting on a high note. I don't like to be negative, and I've told you some really bad down things, and trust me, I kept it very, very, I didn't tell you all the bad stuff. Because it's bad. And look, and on a state level, we're falling apart. You know, we saw the abortion thing come up last week, and I've had a few people ask me about it. In a year, I probably only got asked 5 times about this. And in every one of those times, it was in the context of, what are we going to do because the Democrats will use this against Republican candidates? Folks, if you're I'm unwavering. I'm pro-life, and I think life starts at conception. And I will never change from that. I have spent my life my career defending the lives of men, women, their health, teenagers, children, and the unborn. You know, Ronald Reagan has a great quote. He said, I can't help but notice that everybody who is for abortion has already been born. Yeah. Who will be the champions for those who are unborn? Those who had no choice in what the situation was that brought them to that point. And we need to be champions for that, unwavering, solid conservatives in this. And look, frankly, we in this room may not all be in agreement with this. But here's what I will tell you. Do not let them get you off your game. This is designed to get people emotional, to get you charged on a passionate and emotional issue so you become a single issue voter, that you completely overlook the failures of this administration and these policies and issues that don't just affect a portion of Americans, that affect all Americans. And those issues are what I said: the border, crime, economy, gas prices, grocery prices. All of those things are affecting Americans and really hurting American lives. And we cannot get pigeonholed into being a single issue voter. We must be able to say, look, we may or may not agree on this, but what you will know is that I will fight for you and your rights to do what you need to do, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and that we're going to keep the government out of your lives as much as possible. And that's what you should expect from me as your senator. Okay, last story. The story is of Benjamin Franklin, but have you guys been to Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Have you been to Independence Hall?
Yes.
You know, they make sure you know that it's called the Pennsylvania State House, all right? But they now call it the Independence Hall. You walk in the room, and on one side there's a court, and it's wide open. And in that court, in the middle of the court, is a cage, about this high, in a little box. Have you ever heard the term standing trial? They made those people stand in a box, and that's why they call it you stand trial, is because they would stand in that box right in the middle of the court. They eventually kind of did away with that. But if you read through the Declaration of Independence, there's a lot going on this side of the room. That's what the Founding Fathers were mad about, because they stopped letting the Americans come in and watch the court proceedings. They stopped doing jury trials because the juries kept ruling in favor of the Americans against the English. And so they got a little upset, and that's part of the reason why they wrote the Declaration of Independence. That room's one side. The other side of the room is a room with a table at the front and a wood chair. Then it had 13 tables all around it. And each table had 2 chairs for the 13 colonies. And that is where they wrote the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson wrote up a draft of the Constitution. Then for 3 months, they went back and forth, taking things out, doing all this. And after 3 months of tiring, going back and forth, trying to find the right words, finally, they were coming close to getting it done. And one night, Benjamin Franklin stood up and he gave a talk. And he talks about how this was about as perfect as they were going to get. And this was truly inspired by God, what they had gotten to. And then he said something that I want to talk about. The chair at the front table was a wooden chair. And on the top of the chair was a sun carved into the chair, a half a sun carved into the top of the wooden chair. And Benjamin Franklin stands up and he says, you know, for the last 3 months, I have looked at that chair, and I have looked at the sun on the back of that chair, and I have often wondered whether it is a rising sun or a setting sun. And he said, tonight I am happy to say it is a rising sun. And I'm here to tell you, America is still a rising sun. We have our problems. We're trying to find our way again. But I will tell you, this is still the greatest country in the world, and it is worth fighting for. We must do what we can now to protect this country. This is the Alamo of freedom. There is nowhere else to go find it. So either we're going to stand up and defend our freedoms, defend our love of God, family, and freedom and the Constitution, or we're going to let it go. You know, when the Bostonians, they say the people in Boston had a lot more resolve on what to do than doing what they had resolved to do. But they were very shocked when the Bostonians threw the tea in the harbor. And the English were so upset. The king wrote a letter back. And the king's letter said, the die is now cast. Either the colonies will submit or they will triumph. I've always found it interesting that the king recognized there was only 2 outcomes. Either you were going to submit to what the king wanted, or you were going to triumph. And we're in the same position. Either we will submit to what the globalists and to what these people who have a different agenda is for America, either we will submit to that, or we will triumph.
Let's try it.
My wife and I are determined to be free. We love this country. We're going to do everything we can. We believe it is a rising sun, not a setting sun. I will tell you there's 2 real simple solutions to our problems. We need God and the Constitution back in our lives. And I aim to be that person who restores those values to this country and restores that to Washington, D.C., and has the courage, the boldness to stand up for the things that we love and believe in, and to stand up for you, and to do what is right for you, regardless of the pressure that you feel. That is what I am determined to do and commit to you to do. I am grateful to be here today, and I hope that I can get your vote on July 30th and represent you again in November, and hopefully we'll take this state back, and hopefully we'll take the presidency back as well. God bless all of you guys. Thank you for having me tonight. And thank you, Carl, again for putting this on. I appreciate you, sir.
Mark, it's an honor.
Thank you.
It is.
You've got my vote.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So before I call our next speaker up, we're going to be having a raffle here tonight shortly afterwards. And we also have a trump. Do you have it up here, Carl? 1 ounce silver round.
I think this fine gentleman, and your name is please? Donovan. This gentleman, he donated this to us to help make America great again. So I'd like to pass it around, and we're just going to come by and look at
You
it.
guys can take a look at it. It's surrounded with money, and then it has a silver round in the center with Donald Trump. So half the proceeds from this is going to go to Daniel Butierez, and the other half is going to Mark Lamb. Our next speaker tonight has been up on the border with me multiple times. Now he's running for Congress. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk as well. Daniel Butierez, get up here, buddy.
Thank you, everybody. I want to thank everybody for having us here, and Mr. Britton for having us here. Did he leave? Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Britton. Anyways, there's 4 topics I want to address that I'm running on. And I want to go back to what Mark Lamb said about the abortion issue. He's absolutely right. That's all the abortion issue is. The issues that are impacting America are way bigger than the abortion issue. Abortion impacts less than 1% of our entire nation. I mean, you're not getting an abortion, are you? Yeah, less than 1% of 1% of the entire country. That's how bad it is that it's impacting. It wants to be the main issue. That's what the Democrats want, because they have nothing else to run. My issues are, I want to secure the southern border. I want to address the homeless crisis that's plaguing our country. I want to deal with the crime that's causing our stores to shut down. And I want to improve the economy. The first off, the border crisis. I've been down there with Johnathon Alexander. It's getting better in Tucson. We met with a bunch of congressional leaders up in Sierra Vista, and they actually got something done at Saskatoon. They started closing up all the entrances because our Army Corps of Engineers had literally cut it away. As a matter of fact, Mark Lamb had seen the videos of it, and he sent his son down to see if it was for real because he couldn't believe it. He found out it was absolutely for real. I couldn't believe it when I got there, all the openings that our own government had removed. They cut it open. All the illegals are just coming across the border. Mr. Chilton, he has a ranch over there. And let me tell you what was going on there. The illegals come through and all the Border Patrol go over and they gather up all the illegals and they take them and process them. Well, while the Border Patrol all busy dealing with that, the cartel are running across another section of the border, across Mr. Chilton's ranch. We know this is a fact because Mr. Chilton has cameras on his property and he filmed it all. So these are really happening. Then my dad, before I ever met Johnathon, before I met Mr. Chilton, my dad had taken me out to his property that's in Arabica. And on my dad's property is thousands of empty backpacks. They're all identical, so it's obvious they're made in the same factory. What I kind of figured just by looking at them, I'm not a cop, never was, but I figured that these are backpacks they used to carry their drugs. They'd get picked up on my dad's property by whoever picked them up. They left the backpacks and they took the drugs. Thousands of them across my dad's property in little carpet shoes. I didn't really know what the carpet shoes were till Jonathan explained to me they were so they didn't leave tracks. So it was then that I met Mr. Chilton. So I realized they're cutting across Mr. Chilton's ranch. Hundreds of them. They're going to my dad's property, which is beyond Mr. Chilton's ranch, and they're dropping all the empty backpacks and then taking off with the drugs. So that's how they're coming in. And you'd think it'd be really simple to stop, but nobody in Yuma County cares. We have a really bad sheriff, we have a really bad board of supervisors, and obviously a really bad congressional leader, which is why I'm running. Anyways, so for starters, I need to secure the border. The only way that border is going to get secured is if we remove Graham. That border's never going to get shut down as long as that guy is on the border, because he's working with the tribes. The tribes are keeping the borders open. They're claiming sacred land there. I can tell you right now, my children belong to the Johnathon tribe. I raised them since they were babies. Their people want that border closed. It's the elders of the tribe that are getting paid that don't want to build the wall. And Graham is taking care of all that. So I know quite a bit about what's going on in the tribes. Next, the homeless crisis. We've got a serious issue in Tucson. I know y'all can't see it from here, so I want to give you the reason why I'm going to win this election against Graham. Because Graham has never once in 21 years ever spoke about ever addressing our homeless. He is presently, and the communities begin to realize it, he is presently bringing illegals or homeless from all over the world and not addressing the homeless in our community. The churches, the Salvation Army that gets government funding to help deal with the homeless, to give them food, to help them with things they might need, doesn't have any money. Our county's not giving them any money. All the money that they used to give to the Salvation Army, they're now giving to the NGOs. They're housing the illegals in hotels all over town. I haven't seen one hotel that doesn't have illegals in it. And some of them are nothing but illegals in it, which Jonathan's been there. Anyways, so that's what's happening with the homeless. I want to address the homeless because I was once homeless. Yeah, I was homeless. I was hooked on drugs. I lived homeless for about 2.5 years. I had walked away from God. I didn't believe in God anymore. I didn't want to live anymore. I had lost my children, my woman, my home, everything. Which, if you all read my story, you understand why. And I became hopeless. You know, I fell into hopelessness. I eventually got my life together. I now own 2 companies. I have a ranch in Marana. I have an office in Tucson. I've presently been trying to fund my own campaign. My children, my 2 sons, wound up getting hooked on fentanyl. I tried to help them up, guide them. They'd fall down. I let them crawl and straggle, find their own way. Fortunately for them, they had watched their dad walk down a path. And that path led them to become successful. My son is now running both my companies while I'm running for Congress. My other son, Robert, who belongs to the Johnathon tribe, is now working for Del Webb with a career. Both of them are successful. I want to take the program that I walk and put it into action and start helping our homeless get on their feet and back in their lives. Every other candidate that addresses this talks about how we need to build hospitals, we need to hire doctors, we need to spend millions and millions of dollars to address this homeless crisis. And I'm telling you right now, the Democrats have been doing it for 40 or 50 years and it doesn't work. What they need to do is we need to get them clean and we need to give them back their their self-esteem. If we do not give them a job and give them back their self-esteem, you can get them clean, but they will always come back to the drugs. They've got to have a reason to live. We all need a purpose. It's just a fact. We got to have a purpose. So I do have a program. I've spent a lot of years thinking about this, and I've got it all together. I've got a lot of people that keep wanting me to work with them, and my wife's very upset because I keep sharing ideals and my thoughts with people, and the first thing everybody does is they run out and they're going to do this program that I put. So she gets pretty mad at me because I'm a very trusting person, and politics is nothing you should trust anybody with because they're all going to stab you in the back. And I was never a politician. The last thing, the crime. I'm telling you right now, because I was homeless, I know what's going on. Our stores are getting shut down. It's way different in this small town than Tucson. And in Tucson, these things matter to the Tucsonians because they're all witnessing it. You can't drive down the street and not see homeless at the bus stop smoking their fentanyl or their meth, and nobody's doing anything. I mean, cops drive by, it's just too much. There's too many people out doing it, so no one's addressing it. You're driving by with a car full of your kids, and you stop at the stoplight, your kids get to watch this drug addict hitting the bike. I mean, that's what's happening in Tucson. Everyone's seeing it. The quick trip over on the road called, you probably aren't all familiar with it, but there's Oracle and Fort Law. There's a quick trip there. At that quick trip, they now have armed security because the homeless go in there and walk out with whatever they want. Okay? Home Depot on Limberlost and Oracle now has armed security. Target has armed security. These neighborhoods have gotten so bad that the stores have to put armed security on them. And guess who pays for that? We do. Our stores are shutting down all over Tucson. Walgreens are shutting down. Now the dollar stores are all closing. It's because they can't stay open. They can't deal with the theft. That causes an expense to all of us. The other thing I want to address that I'm going to have a big fight doing is the methadone clinics. I want to shut down the methadone clinics. Yeah, my sister's on methadone. I love my sister to death, but she's been on methadone for years. Her husband has been on methadone for 30 years. All I see methadone is a taxpayer-funded drug addiction. That's all I see. I don't see anybody getting off of methadone. They get on methadone, they're on it for life. They never get off. And who's making money off that? Big Pharma. Have any of you seen the TV show called Painkillers? Painkillers. It's on Netflix. You guys got to watch it and you'll understand what's going on with their methadone clinics. They did it with Oxycontin. Big Pharma's used this painkiller. Our government paid for all this painkiller. The pharmaceuticals made billions off of it. Literally made billions. They're doing the same thing with the methadone. The Suboxone now. They're now giving it to the inmates in prison. If an inmate asks for it, the guard's got to give it to them because of the deaths they've had in the prisons. I know this because when I got my life together, I only surrounded myself with police officers, prison guards, lawyers, and business owners. That's who my friends are. All my friends, that's all there. Huh?
Prison officers.
Prison officers.
I was one for 35 years, and you're correct.
Yep.
That's what they get anytime they ask for it.
Yep. And it was one of my friends there that let me know that. That's why I know about it. They said they're giving it to them when they ask for it. So nobody's trying to get them off of it. It's Big Pharma making a fortune off of we, the taxpayers. And right off the bat, if we shut down the methadone clinics and we put an end to this and set up the program that I want to set, I've been talking to the county board of supervisors, the people that are getting ready to run, and that's the ones that have stole my ideal. I've explained to them what I want to do. We can, instead of putting them on methadone, we put them in the program that I want to run. We will right off the bat save the taxpayers, we the taxpayers, billions. Okay? And this program I want to run isn't going to cost a whole lot. I may give you all an idea of what it is. There's a prison in Marana. They're shut it down because Grahava 1 is shut. He doesn't want any private prisons open. Every homeless person is breaking the law. They're vagrancy, loitering, shoplifting, using drugs. I mean, they're all breaking the law. So we need to give them an option. You go to jail, you got a $1,000 bond, none of them have the bond to get out. The judge says, but I have an option. You can go through this program. It's a new program we're doing. You complete it successfully, and we'll clean your record. We'll wipe away this charge. The program is, in that prison, detox, and then they go to work. I've been trying to talk to the mayor there in Marana because he was upset that they shut down the prison because the inmates there used to work around Marana. Well, we get the homeless in there, get them cleaned up, and let them work around Marana. My wife, like many others, think that, well, they don't need mental health. That's simply not true. I was probably one of the craziest homeless on the street. I didn't care if I lived or died. My wife can't believe this. I was actually one of them. Okay? There was nothing mentally gone with me. I obviously had a real good head because I walked out of there and I built an empire. So, and every homeless is like that. Once you get them off the drugs, they get clean. I guarantee you, Mark Lambs locked people up that were horrible when they went in, and they came out and he said, "Wow, you look good." Am I telling the truth? They get their heads right, and they can do a lot. The problem is when they come out, they have nothing to look forward to because they haven't gotten their self-esteem except Mark Lambs telling them, "Man, you look good." They walk away from that, and that's not enough to keep them going. A job is enough to keep them going. Earning a paycheck is enough to keep them going. That's what saved me. That's what saved both my sons. I'm telling you, it would not take long to get our country back. And if we keep, as long as we get these people out, we got to get Grahava out of there. We got to get the board supervisor that's running Yuma County. My wife's going to get rid of the mayor. But we got to get rid of our sheriff. We got 2 awesome sheriffs running Yuma County. I don't have any primary coming, so I'm working towards the general. But we got Heather Lappin and Bill Phillips. They're both great people. I love them both. I'm behind whoever wins. And I just want to get rid of the sheriff we got there right now. So that's about all I got to say.
All right, so if you guys haven't got your 50-50 ticket, now's a good time to do it. We're going to auction off that coin. All right.
You're going to auction it, live auction? Let me take a look.
We are going to auction it. We're going to throw in one of Mark Lamb's challenge coins here as well.
I'm not trying to devalue it. There you go.
Honestly.
And we still have this.
We also still have more tickets for the prize over here. So anybody wants to purchase more tickets now, now's the time to do it.